ESPN is projecting something I just haven't seen before. They're projecting the Atlanta Falcons to take a Georgia Bulldog in the first round. The Atlanta Falcons have the 15th pick. I want to talk about just the couple of mock drafts I'm seeing from the network in general as these draft insiders are ramping up. And there's 3 Georgia Bulldogs that are projected to be first-round picks in this upcoming NFL draft. Mykel Williams, the defensive end, Jalen Walker, the hybrid linebacker, and Malachi Starks, the very, very athletic safety. One of the most athletic safeties I think that the NFL is seeing in the draft in the last couple of years. But they're projecting in the most recent mock draft, I believe it's from, I will get the person's name right, Reed. I am blanking on his first name, but he's projecting that the Falcons go with Jalen Walker at number 15 in this NFL draft. Now, not every Georgia fan's a Falcons fan. Not every Falcons fan's a Georgia fan. We talked about this a little bit recently, but there definitely is a lot of crossover between the two fan bases. And look, if you look around the NFL, the teams that are putting together players from programs have found success. From high-level programs have found success. You saw early on the success that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase had together at LSU, and they helped lead a team to a Super Bowl in the Bengals a few years back. You see the Green Bay Packers getting better on defense the last couple of years. Well, part of that is because they gained a lot of talent on that side of the ball, and a few of those guys are from the Georgia Bulldogs. You've seen Alabama on offense with the Eagles. You've seen Georgia players on defense with the Eagles. You're seeing the Steelers go after Georgia football players. And not all of these teams are winning Super Bowls like the Philadelphia Eagles, but Georgia and Kirby are producing NFL football players. This is not a topic I think everyone is super interested in right now, but it's one that interests me a lot, and I have a lot to say about it. I'm looking at the 2 latest mock drafts from ESPN, one from Mel Kiper that he did at the beginning of the NFL Combine. So this is a little bit before those Combine numbers are taking place in people's brain. And then this one, from Jordan Reed. I was blanking on his first name, Jordan Reed, who's doing mock drafts for ESPN as well. He made this one a couple days ago, and he's the one that thinks, hey, Jalen Walker might be there at 8 or at 15. And if that's the case, the Falcons are probably going to take him. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post talking about the NFL mock draft. As something falls off my desk, we're going to keep pulling through. And Jalen Walker is a guy that is going to probably make an NFL team really happy. I want to note, one of the biggest things I think in this process is what people have to say about Kirby, what people have to say about Georgia's program in general when we get around this time of year. When Pro Day is coming up next week and the NFL Draft is coming up next month. And what you hear from NFL executives, people higher up in the league over and over, is how good Kirby Smart does at getting these guys prepared to be ready for the next level. It's a conversation that we heard from both DeMeco Ryans and the Houston Texans. DeMeco Ryans is the head coach of the Houston Texans, and we also heard it from their general manager about Kamari Lassiter and how ready he was on not just a physical and a talent standpoint, but from a mental standpoint and from winning games. I think that people want to draft winners, right? There's GMs and people out there that want to draft winners just as much as they want to draft project players. And there aren't a ton of project players that come out of Georgia because they're getting developed. Now, Mykel Williams is a guy that's considered a little bit more of a project player. In Jordan Reed's mock draft, they've got Mykel Williams going at 8 to the Panthers, which I found to be very interesting because Mel Kiper, in his most recent mock draft, had the Panthers taking Jalen Walker. So they're identifying an issue with the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Carolina Panthers have more than one issue if you pay attention to the NFL. But they're saying, how can these programs, these NFL franchises, help turn around their teams? Well, they can go and dip their hands in the cookie jar out of some of the best programs in college football. And Georgia, a little bit more specifically on defense, is putting out guys that are making huge impacts. And it's not just because of Georgia. Obviously, the talent is there as well. But you've got Jalen Walker and Michael Williams, who are two defensive players that are likely going to go in the top 15 to 16 picks of this NFL draft. And you've seen that on a yearly basis. You saw it with Jordan Davis. You saw it with Jalen Carter. You saw it with, not in the first 15 pick, well, number 1 overall pick with Trayvon Walker. You saw it in that draft as well. You see in the first round, Nolan Smith, Lewis Seen, Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, guys like that going in the first round of the NFL draft. It's a big deal when you're taking it that. This is something that they're saying about Jalen Walker. His explosion is the word that comes to mind in his game. There aren't a lot of guys like Jalen Walker. There are 2 players in this NFL draft that are getting compared to Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is one of the best defensive players in the NFL. And versatility is something that you see a lot out of Georgia defenders. That is what Jalen Walker is. He's a versatile linebacker. He's a guy that can spy. He's a guy that can pass rush. He's a guy that can play standing up. He's a guy that can play crouched down, ready to rush the passer. Georgia asked Jalen Walker to do a lot of things. Malachi Starks is another guy that's probably going to, has a good chance to go in the first round of this NFL draft. If he doesn't, he's going to be going in the second round, barring any changes. Versatility, right? What did Kirby do with Malachi Starks? He played star. He played safety. Kirby said he's one of the only safeties he thinks that can truly play cornerback that's come through Georgia. Versatility. Michael Williams can play a little bit inside and a little bit outside on the defensive line. You see Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, a guy that's going to go later in this draft, is a guy that they believe can go in the first round that has the versatility to play on the inside and outside, and that his athletic potential is part of what's special for the Georgia Bulldogs and could be special for an NFL team. With Malachi Starks, safeties are not valued as highly as front 7 guys, right? But part of what you see in the first round of the NFL draft is potential. People draft off of potential. They draft off of, hey, I think that this guy is raw. Maybe his production doesn't say that. With Malachi Starks, the production is there and the raw talent is there. But Malachi Starks' potential from an athletic standpoint and from an instinct standpoint is part of why he's going to go high in this draft, whether that be in the first round or if it ends up being in the second round. It is a big reason why you saw Trayvon Walker a few years back, drafted first overall, right? That doesn't happen, right? Players that players that don't have the production, and Trayvon Walker, when he was at Georgia, didn't have a ton of production. He is an example of someone who typically doesn't get taken that high. And he got taken that high mostly off of the fact that his athletic potential is through the roof. Almost all of these Georgia Bulldogs have that. And that's something that's special. And rounding it back out to the Falcons' point in this is, look, they're a team that's nearby that has over and over again not drafted Georgia players when they've had the opportunity. They had the opportunity to draft Todd Gurley a long time ago, the opportunity to draft Javon Bullard last year, the opportunity to draft Jalen Carter last year, right? These are all guys that they could have taken. They could have taken Kamari Lassiter, players that would almost certainly help them immediately. So there are franchises where you wonder, why don't you just go to the high-level programs that are developing NFL talent like the Georgias and the Ohio States and the Alabamas of the world and say, hey, not only do these guys have the athletic potential, but they have the development and they have the versatility and they have the winning mindset and they understand what it takes to win. So when NFL programs don't do that, it's always a little bit puzzling to me. And Georgia Bulldogs have that, The Georgia Bulldogs have that year in and year out, where they've got guys that know how to win and they've got guys that have the athletic potential to be stars in the NFL. We're seeing that on a year in and year out basis. Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, and Malachi Starks are just examples, but when you look further in this draft, Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, Jared Wilson, the center, Tate Ratledge, the offensive guard, Arian Smith has that athletic potential, even if it wasn't always put together on the field. So franchises are going to be lucky again to get a chance to draft these players, and it's the same thing with players from Ohio State and players from Alabama and things like that. But when you think about these teams nearby that really need it, the Panthers, the Falcons, expect those types of teams to be the ones taking the Georgia Bulldogs this year.